Well, it's Steve White, Truckway89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I was just thinking about Star Wars and Star Trek the other day. Andor has finished for the season. It's been received incredibly well. The critics and the normies are loving it. Some Star Wars fans are coming out saying it's the best Star Wars that's ever been produced. Other people are saying it's better than Star Wars. And it's all very strange. Now, this idea of trying to normalize like Star Wars and make the Star Wars universe like more like just contemporary drama that appeals to everyone, and the idea of sort of making other genre shows out of something like Star Trek and Star Wars is kind of disturbing. They tried to do it with Star Trek Discovery and Picard, where they tried to make a serious sort of adult sort of show that was dark and cynical and would appeal to the more general audience, I think, and they really failed. And wasn't really well received by the critics or the fans or anything, and it just was very un-Star Trek and didn't sort of make the Star Trek fans happy and didn't bring new people to really the fandom. Whereas Star Wars, on the other hand, they started off with some animated shows, and then they started doing the Disney Plus shows like The Mandalorian. The first couple of seasons went well, but then they seemed to lose where they were going with it, and fans really started complaining. They weren't really happy. Then we got to The Acolyte, and they really hated it. But then they got to Andor, and Andor was like a serious political drama about rebellion and genocide and all these big heavy issues. And these were elements that were in the background of the original Star Wars, but they were just there to sort of make things, recognisable and identifiable, and they weren't, that really wasn't what Star Wars was about. And what I find really bizarre is people like Robert Meyer Burnett don't seem to get what Star Wars actually is. It's not the things that you can relate to Earth that define that show. It's what makes it special and unique and makes it something different. It's the same thing with Star Trek, and one of the things I thought was interesting was when they were producing The Next Generation, a lot of the writers were frustrated that their ideas were being knocked back by Gene, because they were good ideas. And when he was asked why, he said, well, they're stories that could be told elsewhere. We're only going to tell stories that can only be told on Star Trek, that you only get from Star Trek. And Star Wars needs to think the same, because as great as it is that this series is being received well by everyone and taken seriously, and all that's great, except that they're getting really far away from what Star Wars actually was, which was a family science fantasy, and making it into a more serious, like contemporary drama or a period drama or something, is just going to it's going to ruin the franchise. You're going to end up with just being so far removed from what Star Wars was that the new fans coming in, they're just like general audience members. They're not really going to become fans and buy merchandise and stuff like that. It's just sort of, yeah. And it's what they tried to do with Star Trek Discovery and Picard and all that, and failed. They failed to attract the general audience, and their idea, or Kurtzman's idea, was he basically hated Star Trek, and his feeling was that it was dead, and the only way to fix it was to just make it into every other show and every other genre that you can find, and just like eventually you'd find audience out there, and you'd get everyone to sort of watch. It'd sort of be a Star Trek for everyone, but none of them really would resemble Star Trek. But so long as everyone watched them and they got the numbers, it wouldn't matter to them. So Star Wars is in danger of that sort of happening to it, because unlike Star Trek, they've actually been successful with this last show, and sort of everyone from the critics to the fans like it. Some more serious fans like myself and Star Wars theory are saying, no, this is like purists, I guess. They're saying this is not Star Wars, and they shouldn't be chasing the general audience just because it's bigger, because then you just end up with everything being the same, so it appeals to everyone, and you sort of lose unique stories and unique opportunities like Star Wars gave. So I said to comment on that. I just found it really kind of weird. I was just thinking about it, I'm like, wow, this show's really successful, and it may be the end of Star Wars, because if then this means all the new series are grounded in like relatable reality and things that you can get from any documentary or period drama about I'm not going to mention the names of any of the groups involved, but yeah, so it's just a bit of a mess. And like I said, Star Trek failed at it. Star Wars is being more successful at it now after a few tries. If they keep going in that direction, they're just going to kill. They're totally going to alienate the fans. They're not going to bring in new fans that actually buy merchandise and hang around, and it's going to kill the franchise if they go in that direction. Now, Star Trek, they're talking about getting rid of Kurtzman, and the talk is, and this is mostly from Sidetrack, he may just be making it all up, that they're considering still going through with the prequel film, the Robert April film, the one that ends with the Enterprise being commissioned and could be a trilogy or something, and we're more likely to get that. The sort of anniversary movie is kind of not happening. Star Trek 4 sort of not happening, and this sort of seems what we're going to get now, but it may not happen, but it may. The idea is get rid of Kurtzman, just basically cut back, because they're spending money on all these new shows that aren't bringing in new subscribers or people that buy merchandise, and all the old stuff is still selling. They don't even need to add to it, so why would they? So apparently they're thinking of just ending the contract, and that's that. But we'll see. Let me know what you think of both these two issues.